Hi, Gabriel. Thank you for coming to BizTalk. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
All good, all good. Thank you so much for coming and for your time. So let's start giving an introduction on yourself.
So as you covered, my name is Gabriel. I'm the founder of Tutti, which is the open table of creative spaces. And we essentially help people find and book amazing spaces for any creative purpose, whether that's film shoots, photo shoots, rehearsals, recordings, performances, and more. Yeah.
So let's start talking about your startup.
Yeah, so I guess the makes sense to go back and see why I started it. So I come from a family of musicians. All of my family are classical musicians, and then I didn't want to follow in their footpath, so I went off and I studied film, which isn't that much of a breakaway, but I studied film. I love film, but I'm just not very good at what filmmakers are good at. And then I studied IT. Again, I love tech. I love understanding how it works, but I'm not the world's most brilliant programmer. And then I came home and I started having ideas for how I could put together tech, music, and film. And I wanted to start a startup to try and make those ideas a reality. As I was trying to get started, I needed to have a bit of an income, which wasn't startup life. So I went and I worked in theatre, photography. As you can see, I have a good camera, and dabbled across the arts in a lot of things. And throughout all of that work, I kept on coming across a lot of issues. One of the main ones being that it was hard to find and book space. It was just tricky to find the right space or affordable space or whatever space I needed at the time. Started asking my friends and colleagues whether that was just me having the issue or if everyone was. And it started coming out that it was a really big issue, that everyone in the creative arts struggles to find and book space. There's no standardized way of booking it. There's no standardized way of finding it. The easiest way to find space right now is Google, but there's no filter to find no space that has the right size or color infinity code or the right soundproofing. And once you've found spaces, it's then hard to book that space because sometimes the contact details are out of date or people don't reply. That happened way too often. And so I thought this was a perfect opportunity to build a marketplace. On the artist side, they can find and book, or they can find and contact spaces. And on the venue side, we help market them through our channels and provide them a standardized booking system that they can use to manage inquiries. And that's how it got started. We started that in October 2018, and we built on a white label marketplace to start with, so very low cost. And we grew to 1,000 users on that by March 2020. And we were going to switch over to our own tech anyways, and then the pandemic hits. So it gave us 11 months. I'm not saying it's a good thing, not a good thing, but it did give us 11 months of like building in stealth mode, where we were able to build our own tech based on the lessons of the no-code marketplace in 2019. And so we built that. In March 2021, we focused back on marketing and we grew from the roughly 200 listings that we had previously to 1,000 listings in 6 months. After that, we were like, oh, we can raise money on that success. And we tried to raise money for a while, from September 2021 till March 2022, and got absolutely nowhere. So we started talking to investors and advisors and our customers, most importantly, and asking them what they struggled with without that exact question. We just talked to them a lot. And then we started noticing that a lot of our customers use spreadsheets and Google Calendar to run their venues. We were like, why? Like, surely there's software out there that helps you run your venues. And they were like, well, we've tried stuff, but either it's not reliable or it's not built for this sector. And so it just doesn't work. So we heard that from a couple people and went out and asked a lot more people. and I think more than 80%, close to 90% corroborated that information. We've asked in fact, last week I had a conversation with a massive location that's used by Netflix regularly. They run on calendar and spreadsheets, and I was like, okay, so it's an issue. So we pitched to these venues that we could build software for them, and since we know what the thing that we as a team are really good at is the technology. Like, our technology keeps being compared to companies that have millions in funding, and until April we were bootstrapped. So we knew we were good with tech, and we pitched these ideas to venues, and they said, absolutely, yes, we'd love to use that. So with that, we then turned around to potential investors and said, hey, we're going to build SaaS instead. We'll keep the marketplace. It'll be a lead generator, but we're going to build the SaaS side of SaaS-enabled marketplace. And with that pitch, we raised 140K in 6 weeks. So we are now building that software. We've been building it since mid-April, and we soft launched it to a few venues last week. It's very much basic features right now, and it's not going to be used by that many people for now, but those features will grow to basically what we call another MVP for the SaaS in the next 2 to 3 months. And the reason I'm talking here is because in order to build that software and extend our runway until we get to a seed round, which we're planning in 2023, we are doing a crowd raise. One, so that our venues and our hosts and our artists, our supply and demand can get involved and invest in the crowd raise. But also so that we can just kind of grow our reach. There's a lot of friends and family and lots of people who've expressed interest in investing into us, but they can't invest like $1,000. So we're doing a crowd raise so that anyone can invest for £12 or more. And and we're open to more external investors at that time. Alternatively, anyone who's interested now can sign up to our mailing list where we say how we're doing, and then if you're interested in our seed round in 6 to 8 months, you can do that. That's roughly it. That's what we do. That's where we're at. And this is Tutti, open table for creative spaces, and that's me. Thanks.
Thank you, Gabriel. I mean, I come from theater as well. I was acting, so I understand how complicated it is managing art itself. Not only spaces, but art is something where technology is still very marginal. It's not there, and many of them, they still need to understand how to use it, if there is any good proposal which makes sense to use. What is your market today? UK?
London is our main focus right now. Post this fundraise, we will expand across the UK. We're having venues actually organically list from across the UK already, but our main focus is still London.
And as you're raising now more funding, what is going to be the use of this funding? And I do believe this is something more big city oriented as a business model than spreading everywhere around the country, or am I wrong?
I think the way that we win is we focus on the big cities. There's nothing stopping people listing outside of big cities, and we already have theaters outside London which are of interest because people they tour across the country, and there need to be stopping points where, one, they can stay, but that's not what we help with, but also, two, that they need to rehearse at. So there's benefit of having spaces outside the major cities, but our focus as a company will be on the main cities that support the arts across the UK. And the purpose of the money is to build the software. The software is going to be our main focus for the next year or so, because there's nothing really like it out there, and it can help venues even if they're not listed on our marketplace, because they can use it as their internal booking management solution, CRM, and a few other things. We keep on referring to it as Open Table for Creative Spaces because we are building very similar software to Open Table, except for our sector, a booking management solution, a CRM, a widget that they can throw onto their website, a couple other things. And yeah, that's the money is being spent on that, and then the money will help extend our runway so that we can get that into the hands of we're aiming for a couple hundred venues before we go and raise our seed round.
I mean, in terms of revenue, where the marketplace is and where the SaaS business model?
So the marketplace, we are getting very small amounts of revenue. It's commission based, so it's very hard to predict. Like some months we'll have brilliant like numbers of people coming through and booking. Some months not so much. It's tricky because in order for us to get revenue, people have to send requests to need space and then send requests. The hosts have to have availability, accept requests, and it has to go all the way through to negotiation, through to payment. Whereas for the software, we're going to be selling that as a monthly subscription to venues, a small monthly subscription, but a monthly subscription. So regardless of whether they get loads of bookings or no bookings, we will still get money. Yeah, monthly recurring.
So they're going to use the software as a CRM to manage booking, manage the clients, and so on. What about the market? How big is this market? Can you scale inside this market?
I believe so. So we're very vague with the term creative spaces because there can be so many different types of creative spaces. So right now we are in talks with two large organizations, one which runs a bunch of nightclubs and one which runs a bunch of homes for like staying, for holiday staying. Those both work as perfect creative spaces because nightclubs during the day can be used for photo shoots, film shoots, rehearsals. They are soundproof spaces. They could be used for band rehearsals. They have equipment in them because they could be used for all sorts of things. And then homes can be used for constantly used in films and TV and branding shoots and all sorts of anything shoot related. So those are two examples. But then we also have churches and theaters and studios and warehouses, and the long number of places that can be used as creative space. We have identified at least 200,000 spaces just in the UK alone that could be used as creative space. So once you get outside the UK, which we intend to do, that number explodes. So
what about, for example, film producers? And coming after this, what today who is paying for this service? And what do you think is going to be the next customers when you move to SaaS, full SaaS?
Yeah. So for film, the big productions often use location agencies, and that's understandable. They have relationships with the location agencies. They know the service that they'll get all the time, but that's like the top 10%. The other 90% of young directors who can't afford location agencies. Location agencies charge between 20 and 30% commission on all payments, and some of the spaces are incredibly expensive. We charge 10%, and our venues range between kind of 400 a day to 2,000 a day. And so we have had big productions come through us. BBC has used us. I think Netflix has used us. And I guess one of the nice things about us is people can search our entire database very easily and find and contact the places directly. With a location agency, it's a little bit harder to search their website sometimes and find the right space for them. Our system, because of my background in film, I built our tech specifically for people who need to find and compare a lot of spaces quickly. Our database structure is somewhat unique. It went all the way back then when I was designing the database in 2020. I knew kind of how I wanted filmmakers to be able to search on our site, and I didn't follow what everyone else is doing. So I guess the best example of that, which is fun to call out, is if you go to many of our competitors' websites and you type in kitchen, you'll find a bunch of homes, and you have to click through the photos of the homes and find the photo of the kitchen. It takes quite a lot of time. On Tutti, you go to search and you type in kitchen, and you'll see every single kitchen that we have listed immediately, regardless of what location they're based in, because we have a database structure that is built for that search system. So that's the benefit of using us for anyone creative looking for a specific type of space. Your other question was about SaaS, but I forget exactly what the question was. So.
I mean, in terms of SaaS, today you have some kind of clients. Are you going to, are they the same tomorrow when you move to a SaaS service, which is slightly different from Booking?
It's slightly different. So our SaaS is kind of, I think I don't know who coined this term, but it's one player mode, which is offering a service to one side of the marketplace that they're able to get value and benefit out of it without necessarily having to rely on any communications from the other side of the marketplace. So we the focus with this SaaS product is the venues. We have been supporting venues already in our marketplace, so we have a lot of warm leads. We already have relationships with more than 500 venues in London, but it deepens our relationship with them basically because now we're providing their entire booking management solution.
Wait, how do you recruit? How do you find venues to collaborate with?
Basically, we do the same thing as any other creator does, but then we make him available for creators. So we scour the internet, we find contact details, we contact them. I have a backlog of spreadsheets of kind of people that we can contact. We go through phases. Sometimes we're in sales phase and contacting more venues, and then sometimes we need to go build the tech and improve our systems phase because we don't have the money or the resources to do those simultaneously. But to date, we have we now have just over 1,000 listings. I think over 1,200 listings across London. And I have personally listed about 60 to 70% of them. So that, to start with, it was me going out being like, don't worry, I'll do everything for you and you'll get on the platform and it's free. But now, because we're growing, because we have quite a few places, and because we spent a lot of time on SEO, people are starting to see us on Google and they're like, oh, that looks like an interesting thing. We should sign up to that. So we are starting to get organic listings from venues who find us on Google promoting other people.
Can we talk a bit more about how you're going to scale your business outside UK? Which numbers are, in your opinion, the one who you will say, okay, now it's time for me to go to Berlin, for example, which is an absolutely great market, or others?
Yeah. We don't have exact timings or numbers on when we would do that. The reason we focused on London to start with is because we knew that we hadn't reached product market fit. We hadn't found the perfect product that was just flying off the shelves regardless of how well we were doing sales on it. So we intended to lock ourselves location-wise until we figured out that tech, and then we'll expand. We're still not quite there because I think the SaaS is a great, is the product that will find that with, but we haven't built all of it yet. So until that's built in its first MVP form, then we won't be expanding. But the plan is I expect we'll hit that kind of close to product market fit by the end of this year. And we're going to be getting into the hands of a lot of venues over the next 6 months. And then theoretically, if we raise a seed in 2023, that's when we'll expand. Well, depending on how things go, if we expand the SaaS and nationwide in the next 6 to 12 months, then we would look at expanding internationally after that. If we only do SaaS, but only London, then it will take us like 2 years to expand internationally. But yeah, international expansion, every single advisor and former founder I've talked to who's talked about it says that every first-time founder, which I am, underestimates how much it costs to expand internationally. So I don't want to kind of go at it with limited resources.
It's very expensive. Scaling is the most expensive, not only in terms of money, in terms of execution. You need to be extremely focused when you go outside your, I can't say comfort zone. There is no comfort for any startup in any zone at the beginning. But yes, you need to understand very much how much is needed, because it's pretty tough, especially when you move in markets like America, for example. US is extremely competitive. So you need to have funding, because these guys are very well funded themselves. But more specifically, you want to go to in 2023 to have your first institutional round, which is your first seed. Who should be your investors targeting? I mean, today you are crowdfunding, so crowdfunding, we very much know very little money put there by many. But after you go to seed, you can't reach many. You need to reach few who can give you the 500, 1 million, whatever you need to move to the next step. Who are these guys you are targeting for 2023? Which I do believe you should start talking now, because
we are.
Now.
I'm already I'm forming a lot of relationships now, because I've been told how important it is to start talking as soon as possible. So there's a few. I have a number of angel investors who I want in on the round, who are like my A-list, who I'm not asking them for money. I'm just going out and talking to them and seeing if I can meet with them completely regardless of money. In fact, I saw at least one of them listed in your BizTalks podcast. So there's a number of people that I'm very aware that I want to have on board, and I'm just slowly forming relationships with them in a non-invasive way. One of the ways that I do that actually is I have started hosting a series of networking events for founders and investors with founder experience. So the top tier investors that I'd love to have on board are people who have founded their own companies, of which there's a growing number of people in the UK who fall into that category. So I've started hosting these events, and it's a very, very nice, non-threatening way of like getting to know a investor, because you just say, hey, I'm hosting a free event. Do you want a drink? Come and say hi. And yeah, we've had a number of people show up. Like we had a couple founders who sold to Apple came to the last one, just happened to be in town, and built amazingly strong relationships just in a couple of days, because we got to hang out over drinks. And then the cool thing with those is I invite people that I think are high quality, driven, impressive founders. And then these investors, if they fit the bill, get an enormous amount of potential deal flow, because they suddenly meet 20, 30 founders who are going to be raising or currently raising. So that's what I'm doing about trying to meet investors.
When it comes to investors, are you looking just for money? Are you looking for someone else who actually gives you not only the network, the money, because most of the investors, that what they can do, it gives the money, especially when it comes to the beginning, and
Yeah.
maybe some networking.
Yeah,
But are you looking for knowledge, for smart money?
yeah, so most of the people on my kind of A-list tier are people who've either founded marketplaces or founded B2B SaaS or founded companies that I aspire to or I really enjoy. So there's a number of them. It's mostly investors with founding experience or really early day operating experience who I look for. But yeah, I mean, I also won't say no to people who love the idea and have no founding experience. I think possibly our most helpful investor right now has founding experience, but in a completely different sector. But his network is unbelievable. He just keeps introducing me to people, and I think he's now got us like 100 locations listed, and he's only been an investor for 3 months. So yeah. And he put in the minimum amount of money, but I'm so glad I have him because now, because of him, my network has expanded massively.
That's great.
So yeah.
Let me ask you, how many people working with you? How many are now composing your team?
Yeah. So our tech team they're internal team members, but they're in India. So we have 4 full-time and 2 part-time in India. And then we have 6 part-time in London. And then I'm full-time. So 12 plus me. And 5 of us are full-time.
Let me close with this, Gabriel. You are now starting talking to investors. This is a very smart way to do stuff because you need to build up a relationship. But what can be your message to investors that today are watching our BizTalk and say why they should bet? Because in the end of the day, startup is really a very tough choice when you give the money to a funder. It's complicated to invest in the first 3 years of any company.
Yeah.
What's your message? Why did you give the money, and how one day they can exit from what it is a pretty niche market?
I guess the reason that I've never really been asked that, but the reason for people to back me, I guess, I have not a unique, but a very rare knowledge base, which is I've grown up in a musical family. I have understanding of the creative industries, strong understanding of the creative industries, but I also have a tech degree. So a lot of people who create tech for the creative industries either know the creative industries but no tech, or they know tech but not the creative industries. I understand both sides of the market. I empathize with creators, but I also understand what technology is out there and how we can best utilize it. I think I've already proven myself I was bootstrapped for 3.5 years. I've put in a lot of my own money. I'm not planning on running away anytime soon. I am planning on seeing this through. I'm like easily dedicated to building this over like the next 10 years. Like I am taking the long game approach that Bezos did famously. There is so much potential to grow in this sector. We started with spaces because it's the one key element that everyone in the creative industry struggles with. But beyond spaces, we can help people find equipment. We can find people. We can expand into many different things. And because of my tech background, I'm really excited to be building in like intelligent data systems. So like pulling in AI and ML and using those in ways that no one in this sector has ever seen. So that's also another type of investor I want to get on board is people who've experienced building companies in like deep tech companies, basically. So there's a lot of exciting directions that we can take this. I have a very clear big goal of big mission of we're helping creators have find space and time to create. So we're unlocking creativity in the world. That covers a massive broad scope of opportunity. but we're setting the right infrastructure now so that we'll have massive potential in the future. Basically, it's an exciting time. I hope people get on board and come and join the journey. And I have a lot of investors who recently invested in me and have glowing reviews on LinkedIn. So you can go talk to them if you have any questions. So yeah.
How do you think they can exit? And we close with this.
We're shooting for the very rare instance of an IPO. That is honestly what I want to achieve with this company. But I'm also very aware that that is a rare occurrence, like that is 0.0001% or whatever. So there are a lot of companies that support different sectors that we're targeting. So if things aren't going well, or if there's an opportunity for a good exit at some point nearer down the line, it might happen. But to be completely honest, my goal is IPO. So yeah,
that's the best one. I really wish you to IPO at the London Stock Exchange one day, and go for it.
Thank you.
Gabriel, thank you very much for coming to BizTalk. It's been a very great pleasure for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.